Good evening, everybody. Tonight is, I'm calling the order of the Sustainability Commission meeting of...
Give me 1 sec, sorry.
Oh,
Let's move this over here. Sorry about that.
am I sounding too good or too bad?
It's too hot.
Sorry.
Thank you. I'll set it.
Good evening. I'm calling the order of the Norwood Sustainability Commission meeting of Monday, November 18th at 7 o'clock at Norwood Town Hall. Reconvene to the room 24. So we'll just go around the table. Everybody can introduce themselves, and then we can we'll talk about tonight's presentations.
John Aprea.
Heather Miller.
David Ruggiero.
Emily Shea.
Joe Shimada. Mark Vidrani.
And Peter McFarland, I'm the chair. And
Keith Bergman, helper.
and
I'm Joe Collins, I'm one of the budget and management analysts for the town.
okay. For the first part of the meeting, we have the Norwood High School Environmental Youth Coalition. It's going to make a presentation about plastics. And what else?
I think we're just getting logged in here, right?
Okay. Well, that, just a note as far as, we did, I did attend the Charles River Watershed Association's meeting on climate resiliency for municipalities. It was held, hosted by Charles River Watershed in Dedham last Saturday. I found it very helpful as far as all that goes. And Heather Miller made a presentation, and Dave Ruggiero and I also attended so something that we can talk about later as far as that goes. And there will be sending out the presentation, so we'll share with the whole group too, because it's good. Good base knowledge, especially about resiliency and climate change. So, if you're ready, just introduce yourselves so we know who's speaking for the...
My name is Gordon. My name is Sophia Sartori, and I'm one of the presidents of EYC. We're here representing the Environmental Youth Coalition, and we'd like to start by thanking you all for having us here. And we are here to convince you to support us in our efforts in creating a plastic bag ban.
Oh, it's smarter than us.
Oh, there we go. Too many. Well, ready? Just do this.
This is amazing.
With the smart
So the first question that anyone would ask is, why would we want a ban? Seeing as you're the Sustainability Commission, we would hope that you know why plastic is bad, but we'd like to give you a little bit of background on plastic. So plastics require non-renewable resources such as oil to make, as well as many other fossil fuels to produce. Over 100 million barrels of oil are used to make 1 year's worth of plastic bags, and yet the average uses of plastic bags is 20 minutes. My apologies, technical difficulties. This is 1 second.
It has a mind of its
So
own.
I'll give you. Yes. Next one. Plastic bags are also
You might have a timer going.
Is it a timer? Yeah. Maybe don't hit the play button. Hit the pause. Yeah.
So once that fades, it gets...
just one back.
27 the wire in the back, that black wire in the back, can connect to the laptop. Oh, do you want to just do that?
It may be is it the play button because it's on play? Or?
That doesn't seem to
Yeah,
matter.
it makes it play.
Oh.
What if you don't present it and just keep it on not presented, and then you can just
Oh,
click on
okay,
the slide
yeah.
you want?
That top left?
Yeah.
Exit, just exit.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes.
Is
Yeah,
that all?
That's great.
Slide 4.
Stressful.
Plastic bags are also not fully biodegradable and turn into microplastics over time. Those microplastics then are eaten by marine wildlife, which in turn are eaten by us, or enter our freshwater stream and are eaten or consumed by us. One person uses 231 plastic bags over the course of a year. And with a population of 30,000 people in Norwood, that's almost 16 million plastic bags per year, entering our landfills and our oceans annually. Also, grocery stores on average use 20,000 grocery bags per month. With 4 grocery stores in Norwood, that's almost 1 million more plastic bags that are distributed under the name of Norwood.
So if we were to have a bag ban, then $500,000 would be saved for Norwood collectively from the supermarkets in Norwood, because contrary to popular opinion, plastic bags are not free. Each one costs about 5 cents to make, and with 30,000 residents in Norwood, this can make a large impact if we were to cut it out.
So you must be thinking, what if we want to reduce plastic consumption, why not just go to the people and tell them what we're trying to do?
So, my goodness. With education, there's not always like a success rate, because there are those people who are not like willing to listen or think their ways are correct. And so people just don't care as much about the earth as they should, because this is the place where they live and this is like a large impact on them. So we also do not have the money to fund any resources. We need to educate. So like education takes a lot of money. And however, this bylaw should not affect the town budget in a negative way. So we think that is significant. That works.
So after a lot of thought and debate, the Environmental Youth Coalition has come to the conclusion that a ban would be the best course of action. With our combined resources, we can write a fair law concerning plastic usage in the town of Norwood. We hope that by collaborating together, we can convince the people of Norwood that this is the direction our town should be moving in.
So over 122 towns and cities in Massachusetts either have legislation in place or pending plastic bag bans in some capacities. Out of 351 cities and towns, that's still only 35% of the state. We are hoping to slowly increase that number and increasing the number of plastic bag bans starting with Norwood.
Though we don't have a set law at the moment, we do have a set timeline to get the ball rolling on our bylaw and getting it passed. As of right now, we're still in the early stages, but we do have a plan to meet with local groceries and local businesses after writing a draft, and to discuss the impact that the law will have on them. But we also are trying to gain as much support as possible before going to the public. We also have plans to gain community support by petitioning and publicizing as much as possible with the League of Women Voters and Progress Norwood and Together Yes. We are also hoping that the Sustainability Commission will become one of those supporters, because we do need your help. On the slides, we've written a couple emails through which you can contact either me or Ms. Leichman. And if any of you are personally interested in helping us, thank you so much for listening to us, and thank you to John Aprea for allowing us to speak today.
Thank you.
These are just some questions that we have for you concerning the law and in general. and we're done. And
Okay.
then that's just more questions that we have.
Mhm.
Do you guys have any questions for us?
What type of timeline did you have?
So it was more of like kind of more of a checklist. We don't have like a set time. We're trying to get this either done by the May town meeting or the next November's town meeting. I'm trying to get it passed to the town meeting. So.
You had mentioned 35 communities had
It was over
legislation.
122 towns and cities.
And how much of the population of Massachusetts does that represent? Do you know?
Almost 50%, but it's only 35% of the land.
And then following up on previous question, what has the other timeline been like for those communities that have adopted? Do you know?
Those other communities did something with the state, so they signed on with the state. So that timeline was a year to go into effect.
First of all, thank you for coming and presenting tonight to the Sustainability Commission. I think this is great to see the high school kids, leading the campaign in town to ban plastic bags, future generations of our town coming together, I would challenge you to continue to work through your timeline and to break each bullet point down as far as, priorities and which ones to do first, and then how long each one is going to take. And think strategically about a timeline. I worked with the town of Medfield really closely, went to a few of their meetings, and their timeline was about 18 months. And that was a citizens-based community group like Progress Nord. And their timeline was about 18 months. A lot of publicity has to happen, a lot of outreach, more than just, going to the Board of Select people or going to the grocery stores. So it's going to take some time. I wouldn't rush it. I know Tony Mizuko doesn't want to rush it. We could have something ready for spring town meeting, but, in all reality, does it look like spring 2021? And again, it all depends what kind of traction you can build over the next, 9 to 12 months.
Question. I think this is on your timeline, but have you had conversations about how to help low-income residents, seniors, other groups to comply with a bag ban that might be more disproportionately affected by a ban like this? Or do you know what other towns have done so that some residents are not negatively affected by it?
Right now, our best course of action as we leave is to go talk to them and listen to them, how it would impact them, and then try to figure out ways around it.
So basically, you're proposing a bylaw change then?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, because that requires 2/3 of town meeting to approve it, the bylaw change. So that's a lot of convincing to do there, especially since, I'm agreeing more with what John was saying about the timeline, because we only have 5 months until the annual town meeting. And the thing about this is, having been involved in political campaigns that rush through things, the more education, the more people talk about it, the better off the results are. Because I've actually been through a campaign that had to go 90 days from the time it was announced to the time it was voted on. Didn't win. So I can speak from experience that time is, and education and talking and getting the word out, not just in social media, but getting it, putting it into the papers. Because a lot of the people that you need to convince are the people that still read the paper. Not a lot of them are on Facebook and all those social medias. As far as that, and I'm in favor of it, but I'm just one person. And I can also tell you, and there's probably 2 or 3 of us in this room can remember when there weren't plastic bags that roamed the face of the earth. It's not that long ago, and as far as that goes. So, and it is basically a 30-year-old problem, maybe 40 years at the most, that's been around, where plastic bags have infiltrated the environment and caused, a lot of havoc And you're seeing it in the wildlife, you're seeing it, you know, seeing it floating in the ocean. So, you know, it's something that needs to, we tipped the ship the wrong way, now we gotta tip it back the right way. So, you know, I encourage you, and, but, you know, I think we can work with you with the timeline, because, you know, it's a worthwhile cause, but don't rush it. That's my feeling, that's all.
I just have one question. I think I heard today that the state of Massachusetts is bringing a statewide plastic bag bill, a ban bill to the floor soon. So do you think you guys would be able to transition to like single-use plastics, like a straw or stirrers or something like that, as your team to focus on your new goal, let's say?
We are in the process of writing a letter to Dunkin' Donuts at the moment about their single-use plastic. But with the thing is, with the state law, it's been proposed 3 times, and all 3 times it has not passed. So we're not holding out like really high hopes for this to pass this time.
Yeah, the towns too that have already passed the bag bans don't like the idea of the state passing it, because the state one isn't as stringent. So if the state passes it, it actually wipes out what the towns have put into
If the
place.
state passes, then it'll supersede
Yeah,
all
and
the towns anyway.
and it's not really that strong of a, you know, because it's about plastic
Kind of
mill.
undermines it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, because it's brought up, I just heard it today that a bill was coming up, and I was like, well, you know, if it passes, then there's not much they can do unless they transition to another, you know, single-use plastic project.
Any other questions for our presenters?
So where do we go from here?
We're just trying to gain as much support right now, and then we're gonna start to draft the bylaw, and we're gonna need your help because I've never written a law before, so.
Yeah, I'm sure, and, you know, Joe and Tony are good at that sort of stuff as well, you know. But it seems like, you know, it's a good opportunity to, not necessarily right now, but down the road, form a subcommittee from the Sustainability Commission
Sure.
to partner with the EYC, and I know we have members of Progress Norwood here as well in the crowd that are, you know, here to support the cause. So
One thing
together we'll get it done.
One thing about drafting, I would collect other towns and see what they wrote.
We've done some research.
Yeah, so I mean, that's where you're gonna get the basis of all your information, as far as that goes, but, you know, I think you'll find some lawyers in the community that will be sympathetic and be able to help, reach out and help you too, so, you know, once you get it. Know anybody? As far as that goes, so, you know, well, you've got a connection here with John, and definitely reach out to me, as far as that goes, so, you know, if you've got questions or things, you know, we're here to help you too, so, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you
Good
very
job,
much.
guys.
Great
Thank you.
presentation.
Do you need me to like X everything in a row? Or do you need to
If you
use
could
this?
log out and then,
So next Monday, town of Dedham.
Huh?
Next Monday, town of Dedham, special town meeting, they're voting on a bag ban.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And Wednesday, the state senate is debating.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Good. Good to
I
know.
heard that there's not much momentum in the House,
Good job.
Okay.
though. Like,
Yeah.
the Senate's
On-
almost
on-
certain to pass it, but
Yeah,
then
on
it's
The-
probably
oh,
not gonna
this-
go anywhere in the
just about
House.
anything, just,
The Senate will pass it, but the House no. Oh, that's interesting.
At least right now.
So
Okay.
Wednesday.
We can get back to our did we get the, just about the mission statement, what the purpose for, did it all make sense to everybody? And just want to take a final vote and we'll accept it, and then we can move on to other things.
Motion to approve as revised.
You have a second?
Seconded.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Passes. Thank you. All right, the next thing was, as far as, you know, probably have back-to-back meetings. You know, we started working on the spreadsheet as far as goals and subcommittees. And I did some thinking and thought, as far as trying to, didn't really take anything off the list, but kind of thought about regrouping some things, because like with solid waste, I felt like food security was more of a public health, should fall more under public health. And with water, I thought a lot of it was either public health or resiliency. So I think, kind of moving those around a little bit. I mean, this is, like I said, we're just starting with this. And then transportation, when you start talking about public health, a lot of, public health kind of goes, transportation, food, and housing are kind of public health issues too, and how those things interact. So I kind of moved transportation under public health too. We haven't really talked about here Complete Streets, but Complete Streets talks about safety and public health issues as far as that goes too. So I kind of regrouped, and public health has kind of expanded a lot more than what it was before. What were we talking about? And then resiliency, we'll talk about this in a minute, but we're a municipal vulnerability preparedness community, so we'll be talking about that in a minute. But that has to go more resiliency too, so that's another subject matter. Hotspots, storm flooding, stormwater, and dam management. That's another resiliency. Tree planting, as far as that goes. And I know we had a lot of interest in education and outreach. I just added, I think we had data underwater, but I think that was more concerned just with, MWRA numbers. But, as far as education goes, a lot of education is going to come based out of data. So I feel like with the education and outreach, this is going to be a very active subcommittee at the beginning, because I think what we're going to do is develop how we're going to approach all our subcommittees and use it as the vehicle for how we communicate and how we deal with data and how we reach goals and things like that. So I feel that's going to be very active at the beginning. And, we'll always be doing outreach and things like that, so we'll always stay. But I think once we get our metrics and objectives and all that down, I think the biggest part we'll be doing in the next 6 months is our own education and, and then eventually outreach. So as far as, so I think that'll be a very valuable, especially at the outset. And just going back and start the solid waste, I think all of us had solid waste, as first, second, or third, as far as our interests go. So might not be a subcommittee, but what'll happen is, I think subcommittees will be in the subject areas, composting and things like that. So I'm open to anybody else's thoughts on it, but that's kind of like, I know I set out the spreadsheet and made some changes to it, and just didn't have a chance to explain it, and I didn't feel I had to. It'll be easy to talk about it than it is to try to write a big email that be more confusing than it was worth. So
you're saying subcommittees are the shaded areas, not
yeah, that would be
opposed to the yellow?
Yeah, that's my first pass at it.
Okay.
As far as that goes. I mean, this is all draft. We haven't decided. I'm not deciding anything, but this is kind of like trying to push it, get it down the funnel a little bit more.
Yeah, so areas of focus.
Yeah, more focused on certain things. Not that we're going to decide anything tonight, but if, it's just something, if we want to discuss it tonight, we can, or we want to think about it more. We'll keep it on the agenda for upcoming meetings anyway, so it won't go away for a while, as far as that goes. So, if not, we can The next thing would be, I have it at closing. Well, the next thing, just before our last meeting, we circulated the PowerPoint, and we talked about the second half of this PowerPoint. We really didn't get a chance to talk about the front part of it. And I asked Keith to go more into the slides of the beginning and talk about the MVP, the green communities and things like that, just so we'll have some understanding of what that PowerPoint's about, and talking points that we'll have, and things like that, and help us, it all goes into developing the action plan. So as far as that goes,
Keith?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. I don't know if there's a way to.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay, I didn't see it.
Does everyone have that
Oh, okay.
slideshow? It was with the electronic agenda that went out. Either that or. I'm sorry? Yeah.
Thank you so very much.
Thanks for coming.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
good luck with everything.
I'm about to plug the computer in. There. Okay, there we go. All right.
New site clearing, township prior to the 40s.
Oh, wow.
Mix of sun and clouds for your Wednesday and Thursday.
Great little forecast.
I don't know.
Missed the evening news.
Not bad.
There you go. That's when, if you have a news station on your computer, I guess it shows up. Okay, so let me just back up to, let's see. This contains some slides that I think I showed at the first meeting that I was at. We had the commissioner responsibilities and the mission and goals and so forth. And then in order to have some information about the corporate memory of what is the town of Norwood been working on now and sustainability issues, it seemed to me that there were some existing documents that it's well to just be aware of, and that there may be information you want to pull out of that. One is that there was a Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness, MVP, assessment that was done. It was funded by a state grant under the MVP program. It is the MVP is the key way that communities will be getting some significant infrastructure money to address climate issues in the future. We talked before about there's competing multi-billion, with a B, billion-dollar measures on Beacon Hill. The House Speaker's Greenworks proposal has been passed by the House. It has not been taken up by the Senate yet. The governor has his own bill, and it's thought that something will emerge at some point from the legislature with some significant money for addressing climate infrastructure money through MVP action grants. So it's well to know that there was a planning process that was undertaken, I think with MAPC as the consultant who worked with you on it, and that some of the high priorities are just summarized on the right-hand side, that dam management, stormwater management, emergency notification, tree planting, and so forth. So those were the things that came out of that study. And I was involved with a similar study in my town of Littleton. It was a staff-driven exercise with some public input that may or may not have been the same case here, it's typically all the, department heads would have been involved in developing that. So it's important to be aware that that document exists, that there are resources. This was one of the pages that came out of that. We talk about hotspots, so there are hotspots that are identified in the plan, along with a lot of other information that can help you see what the vulnerabilities of the town are and what critical infrastructure needs you have. We can take a deeper dive into that if you like. The program, in fact, I'm sure we could probably pull up the report itself, which I think is about 50 pages. So you want to be aware it's available. And I think that I linked it in this PowerPoint. Let me just see. By doing this, if you click that, it will open the report. I'm not going to read it, but it's only 23 pages, but that document is accessible by just, if you open the PDF file with this presentation, it will take you to that report. It has all of the things that were discussed, the participants, some of the brainstorming sessions, things that came out of it, and so there's a lot of resources that you can look at there. The MVP program itself, where Norwood has been designated, there's information that's available online about that program, and that there is, I know there was a funding round for an action grant that Norwood had applied for, I think earlier this year, although it was not funded. But there will be other programs, there will be other opportunities for funding
And we plan on
in the future.
applying again.
And also this website, Resilient MA, has a huge amount of information and is sort of the clearinghouse of resources on climate and sustainability issues for cities and towns to look at. So you can access that that site by clicking this slide, and it'll take you there.
What would that grant have funded?
I believe it would have funded the solar field on top of the landfill. I'm not 100% sure, but I can find out.
It was gonna buy the batteries that they needed to train us
Oh,
on. They were like $300,000 worth of solar batteries that could be installed at the solar array. It's probably just a little more money than this program could support at this stage.
And with luck, there will be, if there's, I guess I'll say, if there's significant state funding available, that they'll be looking, the state will be looking at what a community has said in its MVP planning process as sort of the building blocks for going after significant grants. So it might be worth just at some point spending even more quality time taking a deeper dive into that MVP document in the process. Because the degree to which the work of the, I dare say, the degree to which the work of the Sustainability Committee is mindful of the state's programs, the more likely it is that you can bring, that the town can bring home some significant state funding. So that's always a good idea. Next is that there is a sustainability action plan for this building. And that report, I think I probably might have linked it. Yeah. So that is also available to take a look at. I think it has a description of what sorts of improvements to the building are recommended, and how to light replacement, paper goods, as well as the structure.
Just the plan, right? Not necessarily a certain percentage of implementation?
No, it's just,
Just having a plan.
it's just a plan. I don't know that, once that action plan was developed, what steps have been taken to.
Did you mention that it was just part of like the MVP
No,
designation, or did I?
that one is actually, that was separate, and I believe it may have predated the MVP program.
No, the MVP came first. This was
Oh,
done,
did it?
this was
Okay.
just done recently in this, we had interns
In
from
the
Clark.
first-
This is
the
Clark
first one,
from,
right? Okay.
this is
Oh.
Clark University.
Okay, very good.
Interns that did this.
Okay.
I think it was this past,
They talked about it at the first meeting.
Right, yeah, the spring.
Right.
Yeah,
So over
my
the
error, I
summertime?
didn't
yeah, it's the other way around.
catch the
but-
date on that.
Yep.
Yeah.
The only thing, Mike,
Just
as
for
far
town
as
hall.
this plan goes,
Yeah.
it's not the content, it's more or less, it might be a framework for how we format our
Right,
plan,
okay.
you know, as far as that goes. So it, you know, the bold things might be the thing to
Mhm.
look at, not really what's in between those.
Right.
You know, as far as, you can see how it flows and
How it's, yeah, outlined like that, okay.
and roadmap and things like that.
Mhm.
So it, we might look at that as a template more than as a, you know, I mean, it's got good information in it too, but, I mean, not to ignore that, but if we're going to be developing our own plan, we can see how that, a plan's formatted.
Mhm.
So it's one other thing to keep in mind as far as that goes, not just, you know, the work they did, is how they outlined it.
Okay, so next, I've put in some information about becoming designated as a green community. There is a link here, you click it and it'll take you to the state website on being designated as a green community. Our current status is the, well, let me jump ahead, that of the five components that you have to do in order to be certified as green, number 5, adopting the stretch energy code, has already been done by town meeting. So it's the others, let's see. Hold on. Yeah, it's showing funny here. Exit. Remember, I had a TV set that the screen looked like. Not sure.
I thought we reached three or four.
Yep.
5.
We have completed everything but the energy reduction plan, which is listed as number, the municipal energy consumption. And
Probably re-plug the HDMI again, we might have discussed.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah.
Okay, go like this. Or not?
they do it.
No, that's the same. Okay. It's probably that you have to physically touch that screen to do something. All right, thank you. Thanks, Joe.
Reset.
So it's just number 3 that remains to be done?
Yep,
Joe?
yeah, just need the school committee to adopt that, and they're scheduled to discuss it on the 20th. And if they do that, we would be ready to submit on November 22nd.
Okay. So,
I thought they did.
What committee does that go in front of?
school committee?
Yeah.
you said?
I thought they already approved it, no?
They approved the vehicle fleet policy,
Oh.
the fuel efficient vehicle policy, I think it was late last month.
Okay. So when is the next school committee meeting that we should probably all attend and show our support for?
They're meeting on the 20th.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
That's Wednesday.
Just not
This
not to
coming
tell-
Wednesday?
Not to
Yeah.
tell you what you should do there, I'll just share with you that when I met with my school committee, I made sure that, I may, as the town administrator in the previous community, I expressed the one of the questions I was asked was, would school buildings be recipients of the grant funds that the town would go after? So that under the program, you can go up to $250,000 a year, and that it's, and the answer to that question is probably yes.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I mean, they have, I mean, it's not surprising to anyone, they have more, they consume more energy just because they have more buildings than anyone, so, yeah, in order to reach our goals of 20% reduction in 5 years, we have, I mean, they have to get a large share of that funding.
Where is the school committee meeting? Do you know?
That I'm not 100% sure about.
Because sometimes they rotate.
Yeah, I know.
So,
I think this.
I think it might be, I'll look it up. I think they do over travel. It might be the Callahan. I'm not sure. I'll look it up though.
and then maybe if there's email addresses for the school committee, we could email the members here could email in support of this to the school committee. I think that would be great as well.
So noted.
Maybe Joe, if you could send like a listing of or if they have like a standard like school committee
Yeah, I'm sure they.
email address.
Send it to the chair, Teresa Stewart
Teresa Stewart.
is the chair.
Yeah. If you don't mind tomorrow morning, just sending out like a listing of email addresses or
Sure.
to us here, if that's appropriate, and then we could email them in support of adopting.
Yeah, and Joe's right that involvement in the school department is critical in order to make it a success, since typically the energy reductions, an inordinate share of the energy savings, reduction in energy consumption would come from school buildings. So make sure that they're plugged into the program. And the other thing I was able to do in Littleton, we had technical support from our Littleton Electric Light Department to help, because it's the process becomes really complicated really fast.
Yes,
and and so to have technically qualified people to be helping put together the grant applications, to be doing the monitoring is vital to the success. And so you're all set.
Yeah, they've been very helpful, and they're going to be meeting at Callahan.
Okay, Callahan School. Do we know what time? Bob?
7 p.m.
7 p.m.
Okay. So, yeah, and this is just to show, and it's interesting that there are more communities that have adopted the Stretch Energy Code than have been certified as green communities. And I'm not sure if that, usually this is the tough one to do, is when you have to go to your town meeting to get adoption of the Stretch Energy Code. A number of communities have failed at that level. Frankly, the pitch that can be, well, you've already done it, but the pitch that is been made recently by communities is that the actual building code and the stretch code are pretty near, are pretty close now. The state board that oversees building codes is being asked to adopt a stricter code, which they have not yet done as the stretch code. But okay, and there are so you have 273 communities that have adopted the stretch code, but it's only 240 thus far that have been designated as green communities. But there really is a significant amount of money that's available. As I may have mentioned in an earlier meeting, the Metropolitan Area Planning Council staff has been working on the Green Communities 2.0, the rollout of whatever the next generation of the Green Communities program is going to be, because it's more, the program itself is more than 5 years old. It's been, in fact, there have been other communities that have gotten their grants and met the bar of reducing energy consumption by 20%, and they got their state grants, but they still want to do more. So the program will likely be retooled and to be more robust, and I think there'll probably be more state grant money available for communities, probably along the lines of achieving net zero. Because this focus is exclusively, the Green Communities Program is exclusively on reducing energy consumptions in the municipality, just for your municipal buildings. It doesn't, and so if you're adding buildings, that's increasing consumption, and the new metric looks like it may be to look at achieving net zero on a community-wide basis. So whether that's in the Green Communities Program or the MVP, I think that's the direction that we'll be headed.
Well, excuse me, will that be, so that would be two separate designations? So we're going to be applying for this green
Yes.
community,
Yeah.
and then in time, it's not going to be an update to this one. We'll still be accredited by this one and receive grant funds, and then there'll be a 2.0 where it's a net zero, and you have to
Once there's a rollout, right, in the short term, you can focus
On this.
on this.
Right.
During the life of your action, if you have a multi-year action plan that has a vista of, 10, 20, 25 or more years, it's very likely, even in the next 10 years, that there'll be a second generation of a Green Communities Program, which will have goals that I think are consistent with what you've got
What we're doing
on the
anyway.
table anyway.
Okay.
Okay, and just to put out some idea of a planning framework, when the MVP process was undertaken, it followed this framework here. This was the characterize hazards, identify community vulnerabilities and strengths, prioritize community actions, and so on. That was the framework. Let me just see. I'm going to click to take you to this tool, which all of the MVP processes that were undertaken, all of the planning processes, followed the community resilience building model. That's the model that the state adopted. There is a guide that goes along with it. English is fine. And so there are some workshop guides which are, I think, excellent planning tools of how do you go through a planning process. If you want to take a deeper dive in what does the process of developing a plan look like, it's in this workbook, which is the process that was followed by the MAPC folks who worked with the town in developing an MVP planning document. So that resource is there as well, and you can access it by clicking through on this webpage, on this page in the slide deck. Another tool. Another tool that's out there is this document, which you can click through to. Thanks, Joe. Put the link. Thought I put the link somewhere. Maybe not. But this is a climate action planning guide for any municipality. I'll make sure the link is made known here. And I think that it's. I was drawn to the fact that that it says that action planning should be ambitious, inclusive, fair, comprehensive, integrated, relevant, actionable, evidence-based, and transparent and verifiable. That's an awful lot of work, but it's I think it's aspirational. There are a lot of things that you can achieve with a thoughtful plan, and I think that all of the specific goals that you've identified and the subcommittees that you're talking about are all, consistent with this approach. I think the challenge might be to then pulling it all together into a summary document that I'm happy to help with. This is the initiative that MAPC is working on now. They have a pilot project which involves the towns of Arlington and a couple of other towns. I have to go back and look at my notes on this, but I can just click through. There you go. That there is, let's see which towns are working on it. There's a grant funded through which MAPC is working on a toolkit for net zero, and I can't find.
Is it there, Arlington, Melrose, and Natick?
That's it. Okay, right. Ding, ding. Yep, those are the three communities that are working with MAPC right now on coming up with a toolkit for net zero planning. So that I dare say that if that report comes out in the next year or so, or even while it's being developed, I think there will probably be opportunities that I'm supposing that MAPC will have workshops and updates, not only for those communities, but for other member communities of MAPC, where you can see the work that's being done by that group. And I think that's something that would be very, very helpful for Norwood to plug into. And there may be further funding assistance that you can get with a technical assistance grant from MAPC to do some serious work on that. Okay, and then that was your summary of goals, and then I had just put up some samples of other towns that we talked about last time, including Lexington, Brookline, Belmont, Newton, Cambridge, and you can get each of those plans by clicking through. And it's some of the reports are very sophisticated, and some of the reports are very simple, and but I think they all follow a similar procedure in setting them up. There are a lot of resources, a lot of people. Good news is a lot of people are working on it at the same time. I was interested to hear if the Charles River watershed is doing some collective work. Maybe I just checked their website and saw that they're looking to get together communities in the CWRA district to work on climate issues together. That might be something that you want to spend some time on. When I chaired the Magic sub-region of MAPC, our 13 towns were working together on a sub-regional climate adaptation strategy for all 13 towns at once. So if there's that opportunity for you to work with CWRA or others.
Yeah, we're in the Neponset. We're not in the Charles River watershed. So.
Oh, you're not? Okay, all right. So, but you are in one of the sub-regions.
River watershed might do something similar.
Trek.
Yeah, the Trek sub-region of MAPC, so that would be it. I have found though that, and I don't think it was just because that Bob Zimmerman, who was the Charles River watershed director, lived in Littleton where I was working, but that the Charles River has been my experience has been very supportive of communities across the Commonwealth and in the greater Boston region that are working on climate issues. So Emily Norton is now the director Charles River Watershed Association. So if they have training programs, or if they have other things like that, I think that would be very useful.
Yeah, I work there. We're happy to be a resource. I just was pointing out that when they're talking about watershed
Yeah.
climate planning at the watershed level, that's just for the watershed.
Okay.
But like, for example, the event that we put on this past weekend,
Yeah.
we invited folks from outside the watershed too to come and learn. Yeah.
Yeah, Ian Cook from the Ponset River Watershed attended too.
Yeah.
So,
Great.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah. That takes us up to, that was it. And then you have your grid on goal setting, and for which I had put in some samples with links to things. For example, on the plastic bags, you click through that and you get the state website with 122 communities. And it is interesting to see that that this group is basically saying, you know, do not pass that the amendments to the statewide bill that were reported out. See, that there was a redraft, original draft and redraft, and
That's what you were saying?
Yeah.
It's not as
Yeah.
protective.
Right. It's very interesting.
so.
state's going too far.
The state's not, they don't want to do
No,
enough.
it's not.
Oh, the state's not doing enough. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they would still allow like,
But then it would make it harder for communities to be
Right,
more aggressive than the state.
yeah. It's had to supersede a state law
mm,
without going to the state to get it approved. So, kind of like asking the umpire to change his rule, which, that's why I saw it.
And throughout here, there were other toolkits and links that were available that you can click through to get some more information. So,
So you guys have looked through all those links, right?
Well, I think a lot of this will be helpful once we start breaking down into our subcommittees and get a little bit more definition on the work that we're going to be doing, and then we'll have all of this to turn to
Sure.
as examples.
Well, it's easier now that you know where to look.
mm,
I mean, before, it was kind of like,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
so
going
much.
blindfold, trying to find everything. Now, you know, I've used this term plenty of times. It says, I'm not here to reinvent the wheel. Just make sure it rolls, and so now we know, you know, where to look, you know, what, you know, where to go to,
Nice
things
roadmap.
like that. So make it easier. I mean, there's tons and tons of data and things to think about here. You know, when you start talking sustainability, it's like, I mean, it's like that. And trying to get your arms around it, and it's like trying to get your arms around Jell-O, because it keeps moving and changing every time you're,
mm,
you know, you think you got something, and there's something moved on it, and somebody found out some more information, something else changed, somebody else doesn't like this or that, and suddenly you're still trying to get focused on something, and it's still moving on you. So, but that's, I don't know, any discussion, anything pops up, you know, things, where do we go from here, though it's 8:05, we're kind of early, but, you know,
one of the things that I wrote down when we were going through the presentation was learn more about state funding opportunities. And I don't know if that's a separate subcommittee or what, but I know I don't know too much about the opportunities. And just the more familiar we can be about them. You know, if the money's there, we just gotta go after it. And obviously Joe and Tony do a great job, and the planning board and other areas of town government do a great job, but the more we can be familiar with the opportunities, the better. And again, I don't know if that's another area for subcommittee or what, but
Is it just embedded with each subcommittee?
Yeah,
right?
sure,
So
yeah.
Part of their
Of
job
course,
is
yeah.
to look for what's available.
Well, it
well,
also seems nice to know what Joe and Tony have and could send down to the subcommittees, and where we could break it up and say, this is, okay, well, this is clearly, you know, sustain, or, I don't have it in front of me, but, you
Yeah,
know,
sure.
resiliency, or, you know, Yeah, so
Whatever
we can
those
kind of,
are.
yeah, the committee heads can all just meet, say, okay, well, this grant kind of focuses on yours, but it touches on
Mm.
mine, so we'll do some work on it, and just break it up. Once we know, what we're doing and how this is gonna break down for all of the members and stuff like that, yeah, I think it's a great idea.
For example, under transportation, or wherever you put complete streets, under whatever label, the complete streets funding can be significant to go after, to link, to make sure that you've got bike trails and safe avenues for pedestrians and making your
I believe-
strategies for public transportation.
I believe Mark Ryan is the point person on complete streets, him and Tony.
Yeah.
I think, as far as that goes.
Right, yeah.
I've had some quick conversations
It's
on
newer.
that.
It's a newer thing they're looking at. It's a newer program that they're looking at, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's where some of the advocacy groups can be helpful too, is once we have some ideas about what we want to do, like CRWA, we're talking to people about what they can do in terms of retrofitting stormwater infrastructure and, getting money from the state for vulnerability preparedness. So I think there's a lot of groups out there that specialize in different aspects of the things that we're talking about that have a lot of information we can turn to.
That's good.
Yeah.
Keith, wouldn't, MAPC usually has some ideas about
MAPC is a
Doesn't
funding
state have,
source.
funding
too.
source
Yeah,
too,
yeah,
yeah. But they also know
Well,
about grants that
grant
are.
money.
They would.
Is that more like an advocacy group or
And
something?
since
Yeah.
you were talking about grant funding, I wouldn't
Just the
overlook
best way to efficiently
going
use
after
it.
technical assistance funding.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think it
Again
really
and again.
depends on the grant.
And-
Like I know with the MVP, they're trying to be like very user friendly.
Yeah, so kind of like.
And there are plenty of workshops that are held throughout the year on,
I think you usually have to come up with specific projects
as they roll out.
and request funding for the
sources,
projects.
so.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Especially just the green communities
Beforehand, qualify for.
Oh, they are.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I did that too. I dared not fill it out on my own. Yeah. So MEPC's green team,
Yeah.
clean energy team worked on
I know the planning department gets a lot of, planning department is usually the point person on MAPC, Trick,
it.
Paul and Paul and Patrick.
Usually, yeah.
And I know Paul is very into sustainability, because he's the one that did the MVP, got the grant from MAPC, and then did, that and made the presentation for it too, so, that's something Paul's very interested in.
Yeah, green communities as well, yeah. Paul and Pat, green communities.
Yeah, well, but MVP too.
Mhm.
So, I mean, there's plenty of people to contact and and I think now that we actually have, we're up and running, I think they'll be funneling things to us too, as far as opportunities for grants and things like that, because I don't think, the reason, it's good to get these designations, but the big benefit of all these designations is the grant opportunities that come along with it. Because once you get designated and you achieve that, whatever it is, there's money that usually comes available. I mean, it was the same thing, John and I are on the Community Preservation Committee too, now that we're a CPA community. The other thing too is, we talked about before, like recreation would go apply for grants and get denied, but now it becomes easier to get grant opportunity, successful grant opportunities, because being a CPA, and plus you can use seed money from the CPA to, like if it's a match of some sort, so these things work out. So I think it's in everybody's best interest, if you hear something, say something as far as that goes, or if you have a question about it. It'll always be percolating. It just a matter of, taking advantage at the right time.
Another thing you might want to do, if taking a deeper dive, is to just see what some of the other funded activities were. For example, in the town I live in, Concord, that they received a $150,000 grant to plant trees. Because that was seen, because that has a measurable, it's an industry standard on what the, what the reduction of greenhouse gases from putting trees in. So that's they identified areas of town that needed more trees, and gave people a timeline to go and ask for one.
Cool off the hotspots. So.
Well, just on another one, that the MVP program also funded open space acquisitions that could be identified as taking vulnerable places out of development opportunity. That if there was some vulnerable land that wasn't yet tied up with a deed restriction, it funded some communities. Mattapoisett was one of them. They got some significant amount of money to help acquire vulnerable areas in town that were then taken out of development.
Would that include like expiring deed restrictions on properties, or is that some?
I would bet not.
Okay.
But
I know we have some of those coming up. But then.
But it might. I mean, if it's not developed.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Probably are developed if there are deed restrictions, because it's usually it's a developed house. Oh. So, any other thoughts, or we have enough for tonight, or?
Oh, sorry, just one last question. So, as far as the subcommittees are concerned, and when can we start, breaking out and start meeting?
I was gonna ask the exact same thing.
That's what we asked.
Give us homework.
Yeah, please.
Well, just hold on.
Depends on what you want.
Do we need to finish the
No.
like the action plan and formalize it before we start working at the subcommittee level?
Won't
I
the
just-
subcommittees inform the action plan?
Yeah.
I think-
Yeah, it's kind of.
Oh, yeah. You're gonna be
Yeah.
carrying some of it, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, the action plan is gonna be the whole committee, I mean, as far as that goes, but as far as the components of it, some of it will probably develop, come from subcommittees.
Okay.
That's my, what,
So what is, I guess, if we're not implementing the subcommittees, so what is our timeline? Are we
now.
sitting,
Damn, now.
are we actively?
No time to waste.
Are we actively like outlining the sustainability plan? Like, what should I do after I leave this meeting? Because sometimes I get the emails and I read over the emails.
Write it.
My impression was that within the subcommittees, correct me if I'm wrong, we would each take a subset of the action plan, and yes,
That was
it
that
would be
was
a
my
committee-wide
impression.
plan
Right.
ultimately, but people who are interested in particular topics could be doing the research
Well,
and starting to draft those sections.
Well, the subcommittee, that's why,
That's a good idea.
part of the thing too is with the education committee, like I was saying before, is develop the matrix and things like that, which will be incorporated into the action plan, not just, what we're measuring, how we go about everything, as far as that goes. So that would develop some of the framework for the action plan too. All the, this is all, I've developed plans, but not to this depth. So we're all gonna be kind of feeling this one out. That's why, I was looking over Brooklines and kind of, that seemed to have a lot of, I'm more of a grid than a narrative person, as far as checklists and things. So, everybody has their different way of learning and retaining information. But as far as, what, we're doing both at the same time, doing the action plan, and we can start working on subcommittees, and you can break out into subcommittees. When we come together as a group, I think we need to probably focus on the action plan, getting that done, so we have something to do for presentation in May. That's basically a timeline on that. And as far as the subcommittees, we can start that, but it's kind of like the two-pronged thing. You can work on your subcommittee and your interest, but also the whole thing about is getting the action plan up and, up and ready for May.
Joe, we designated separating out work or something for the action plan? Because I mean, we've gone through Keith's presentation and we see how we like to build it, or, excuse me, the outline of what we want to build. Is there a, designation of work for each person? Not necessarily to their committee, but, do we come back with something and say, okay, well, let's review what everyone's done? I'm not sure what what we're
We
doing
need
next.
we need a template to fill in type of a thing?
Right, or like an outline, or.
Well, like all plans, it's, like we were talking about the town sustainability plan, I was saying about the formatting of it.
Mhm.
I mean, those are the components we gotta start working on. And then we come up with an outline, and then we start working, filling in the content that goes with, for everything there.
So, but that can be all worked on simultaneously. I mean,
Oh, yeah, but
subcommittees are
it's
working
not-
on
it's-
content, right?
yeah.
So I mean, but like, I mean, it's a month to the next meeting. You'd think that we could, if we just decided to do 2 topics, right? Because everybody, my name didn't get on that list, right? But
Just put an X on every box.
I know, right? Like, should we just maybe pick a couple and say, let's do some work in the next month and present those 2, like, solid waste and, do whatever it is, because at some point, we're just gonna run out of time. I mean, if we're not,
At
if
this
we're not
point, yeah,
working
at
at
this
this
point,
point
we're
right now,
doing, we have
we're
7 meetings really until the May.
we're gonna run out of time.
So,
Yeah.
it's.
Nobody says
So
it's just
I'm
gonna be
with you.
7
Pick one
meetings.
or
Well, I know. It's just-
Yeah,
it's just-
so, because everybody's on like 3, right, so whatever, everybody 3, right? So if, there's no way we're gonna do all of them, so, but if everybody was on one, we had 2 of them going, 2 or 3 of them, however many it works out.
Or we just know who we're gonna
Yeah.
collaborate with, and we can just, back and forth, this is what we can bring to the next meeting as far as
I mean,
what this our recycling plan,
Yeah.
reducing recycling or something like that,
I would think if we start, and I've done this, we start reviewing other plans from other communities. We've been given lists, we build our own, and then, here are the sections that are really impressive. This is where I'm getting my inspiration from. These are the key points that we should include in our plan, according to me.
Right.
And then it goes to subcommittee. I mean, I think it's just researching it and starting to put pen to paper. Because
So-
at this point, I think we all know what we're interested in. I think we have plenty of resources, both on paper and in person. Let's just start writing this, drafting it.
So as
Everybody
a
brings
group-
something for, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just clarification, are we looking at solid waste and energy as a group? Everyone come with ideas, or are we looking at
I think it's these
Like
people
what-
with
the ones that we,
access.
okay.
I don't know.
Okay, so the areas that we checked
Got
off.
solid waste,
I mean, it'll be hard to
resiliency.
go over everything in one meeting, I think, but.
Yeah.
I
There's a
think
good place to
that-
start.
But if you started, like, if you break it up at half of it or something like that.
Or even just next meeting, people go through what their list is on their
Yeah.
preferred subcommittees, bring in some information,
Public health.
stick it up on the wall for the,
Education.
to the action plan, where that goes, and how we, and part of, the outline, and just, just get something down,
Yeah,
I think,
Definitely.
having something before the new year would be, a solid way to end,
Yeah, it would be.
this quarter, or whatever you wanna call it, and then fresh for 2020.
sounds good.
Get all that, Peter?
So is there like a template or a guide we
bell.
could use? I don't know. If there was like one, I think Keith, if it was like one town that we could try to do not a copy, cut and paste, but it's almost like each subcommittee needs a template to fill in. Whether it's goals or, okay, you put your paragraph here, you put your bullet points here, you put your grid here. If there was like one town, it seems like we almost need to do research and to choose that one town.
That's a good idea. If we
And
had
then,
one
okay, so it's
or two.
Brookline.
Yeah.
Brookline and Canton, or whatever it is, pick 2, we can mash them together, but we need to, before we go to the subcommittee level, I think we need to come up with some sort of like format or template, because like if each subcommittee comes up with like a different version or like style of writing, when we go to consolidate it, it's gonna be like, this doesn't really flow properly.
Or, I mean, I think just, my just 2 cents would be that this next meeting, December 16th, we just go through what we've done. You know what I mean? We go through like the action plans, that we have the examples that Keith has given us, go through the action plans, and if it jumps out, I mean, I'm already thinking, like, what's gonna jump out at me? Like, I know, I've been trying to think of something already for, recycling reduction, solid waste reduction. I already have something flowing for that. So I think I'm listed on there. But as far as resiliency goes, I need to do far more research on that. That, I can kind of jump into and just even present a little bit of information that I brought and say, okay, well, let's say, Heather's also working on resiliency. So and I say this, and do you know what I mean? Like, just we all bring our own homework and come back, we collaborate, and then we put it up and see where it fits in the plan and what we all have together and then what's lacking.
So I think what you're suggesting is we focus on content right now.
Even
do
just
some,
rough content.
Right, like some outlining, some, these are the areas we want to focus on within solid waste or within energy. And then maybe that's when we start looking at plans to see what makes the most sense, given like
Right.
what we want to focus on.
Okay, yeah.
It could be working in either
Yeah.
direction. It's the same. It's the same
Yeah.
outcome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking. I'm thinking of myself personally on where my head's been for the past few.
Commit
weeks.
to more research.
It does
Yeah.
seem like,
Right.
it does seem like it'd be good to get to the substance and start making some progress there.
Right.
And then that'll help drive the rest of the.
Yeah, we'll know where there's
yeah.
if there's like a lot of information on solid waste, but I know Emily mentioned food security, and diet. Well, there's not enough on that yet because we don't know much about it because she's put herself out there as the expert on it. So just knowing where there's a lot of information, there's a little information, and then where we can consolidate.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never done this before. I'm just
All right. Well,
spitballing.
I mean, as far as the action plans, I try to click around to the ones Keith gave us. And like I was saying about Brookline, what you see here is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, they've got a whole, as far as when you go click on and you see what's behind it, because these are just basically the front page of the reports. And you get in there and there's a lot more, it develops a lot more information behind it. I think if you just went into these reports and see what's in the background, because I wasn't too impressed with Belmont's because it was just kind of like a page, and it really wasn't, it wasn't much as far as what I could see and clicking through. This was like the extent of it. Cambridge is huge. Cambridge, cities, I don't know. But just going to Brookline, it's a, it's a big town, but it just, when you open it up, just seeing this here, there's a grid that goes with each one of these. And so there's a lot more background information in it.
Right.
And it isn't just all, and it isn't just like one paragraph. The thing about it is to go in, click into these before we pick a community, my first choice would be Brooklyn. Just for that. Like I said, I didn't really get, Cambridge, I had trouble getting into, it's a big website and
It
it
was
just.
more like their own website.
Huh?
It was more like their own website to click around
Well,
in
some
instead
of the
like a
cities have so
PDF.
much more capacity anyway, that might not be the best model
Yeah.
for us because it might be so far beyond the scope of what we're able to do.
Yeah, it just was, spending a couple hours doing it and finding, I wasn't getting anywhere with that one, it just wasn't, because when we did I'll go back to the community preservation one, I wrote it. Because what I did was take Lexington and just, to find and replace, and did a lot of that, and then took a lot of things out that I knew didn't exist in Norwood. But basically, that was like 80% of the thing was done then. And we just had to go back and collect our own information about housing and about from historical commissions, things like that. So we had to take stuff from Norwood, fill it out with Norwood stuff.
Yeah, I just, like I said, I didn't mean to step on anything or get anything out of order. I've never done this before.
No,
so,
and
I'm just really eager to
I'm glad you're saying it because it's
get
better
going
than,
on.
I'm kind of like, I'm looking for, how fast we want to go is how fast we'll go. We can pick it up. If you want to break it to subcommittees, I have Mark's now, and I could just resend the spreadsheet. If you have it there, and Mark took energy, public health, and education outreach. So if we want to, the thing about solid waste, we all seem to be interested in that, no matter what. I think, but it does, it doesn't have to, the subcommittee could be recycling subcommittee, it's things like that. It could be 2 or 3 people that are interested, I mean, we're not here to stop anybody.
Right.
But we gotta, we don't wanna
Why don't
be
we
just
set-
kinda all running out in different ways,
Right.
doing everything here.
Why don't we, set up for the next meeting, at least one point of, is to, uniformly agree on what template of a sustainability plan we want. Like, let's see the ones that we have out in the emails and that Keith has linked up. We all look over it and vote on it, agree which ones we want. And then from there, I guess, wouldn't that be the easiest way to break up the work or the research to how we'd like to, Norwood, make it,
Well,
Norwood-centric?
the subcommittee could come up with it's basically, you have the bold header, and then the subcommittees can come up with the subcategories
Yeah.
and things like that. So that's where you can work on your subcommittees, but also work at the same time, come into the action plan too. So,
Right, so like-
so then when we get together, all right, we discuss, what we can't be doing, and what happened a lot in the CPC was discussing the things that should be done between meetings, at the meetings, because what happens is an hour and a half meeting becomes a 3-hour meeting, and we're not getting any we're not going any faster.
Right.
So, I mean, if 3 people can get together and talk about, energy or solid waste and what you, when you look at it and you see what's in the action plan for, it might not be Brookline's, but somebody else, another community has a good one for energy. All right, we just cut and paste that in, I mean, it's not like we're gonna stick to one, but it might be the main framework of what we're gonna do, and then we supplement with other things, because you've found some good information, some things, this is a subject matter, this is something you do, Heather does a lot of resiliencies, with the watershed, and so, maybe that helps us, speeds us up in that certain category, and, and we go from there. I mean, we can go faster. I'm just trying to feel out, I don't know you guys, I'm sorry.
Right.
And I don't know how fast or how, we're all learning this.
I think it probably does make sense to break up into subcommittees, not necessarily for the purpose of like moving forward super quickly within the subcommittee, but at least for purposes of doing research, communicating that research within the subcommittee, talking about what sub-issues that committee wants to work on, because that's something that we can do pretty easily between meetings, and it's super easy to do by email, just sharing information and,
And then you're not looking at 2 people looking at the same thing.
Right.
You don't want, they'd rather break things up.
Right.
Let people divide and conquer.
All right. So,
So are we setting up separate email chains for each subcommittee, or are we planning like a meeting where everybody who's interested in a certain subcommittee can call in for like an initial meeting? Or what's the specific logistics of starting the subcommittees?
I mean, each subcommittee can probably do it differently. Like an email chain probably is a good place to start so that people can be sharing information, since I think right now we're kind of at the research and education phase. Like, I don't know that we need meetings of the subcommittees between the meetings that we're having otherwise. Maybe in some cases we do.
Can we start maybe like a shared document where people can write their name in?
Yeah.
Like we list just the subcommittees, and then we each go in and type in our name where we're interested, and
Well,
then maybe
that's-
start the email distribution up there.
that was the whole purpose of this.
I know, but did you say you got left off?
Well, I
and
wasn't
then-
at the last meeting.
Okay,
Wasn't.
so-
I
so if
emailed
there's
my
something-
information and it just didn't get
Yeah,
translated.
just,
I
I
watched
just
it.
thought giving people the independent opportunity would kind of,
Yeah.
instead of like on the spot in the meeting, would just give people
You
time
can
to
just do a
think
Google
on their
Doc
own.
that
Yeah.
Well, I'll email this
Brian's
out.
not here anyway, so.
Yeah.
And,
so-
and then, just, you can discuss, but, well, we're not gonna make any decisions on it, but we just have to watch out for open meeting rules as far as that goes, but,
It's gonna
Say
be
that
tough
again,
with that.
there's a limit, right, to how many members?
well, it has to be, if it's more than, well, technically, we're supposed to have 9, but we don't have 9 yet, so we have 4, so a quorum is over 4, right?
5.
Yeah, the other thing to watch out for, if you actually designate subcommittees, then each subcommittee has to post their meeting.
I'm gonna look into that to see if,
So Yeah, so you want to be careful about that.
Yeah.
Even though that we're a commission and not a.
You guys are unique in that you're you're basically an advisory board to Tony Mizuko. So we're not nearly as strict. Basically, when we're posting your meetings and everything, we're really just doing them because we want to try to be as transparent as possible, but we're not technically required to. But we still want to try to, be as transparent as possible. And I just want to double check and make sure that we're following the open meeting law.
So if we aren't formally designating subcommittees yet, but we're just grouping people based on interest areas for further research, I mean, that seems like something that we could
Oh, no, if you're not
do.
meeting, then you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An email chain doesn't count as a meeting transcript or, right?
Well,
No.
it's gets.
If all nine, if all of us, if all of us,
We can start
if all of us,
accepting
We're just opening something new.
if all of us are on an
I
email
thought we knew.
and we're discussing things, that's a,
With a subcommittee.
no, that's a meeting.
That's a violation.
Yeah.
That's a
How long if you
violation.
Wait until you.
That's a
Well,
meeting.
if
That's a
nine,
meeting.
if it's.
If a nine-person
five
email
for a
chain like what
quorum.
we have for,
No, when
No, it's
Joe,
a
like,
violation of the open meeting law, that
What?
we do, the serial emailing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even between
We need,
subcommittees?
it's five, it's
Yeah.
five or less. So we have how many?
No, you don't
6,
have a
7,
private server.
8.
What does sound right?
Joe will give you guidance on it, but if the answer back is that less than a four in this
What I signed up
committee
for.
can be working on information to bring back to the full committee,
that's
then
fine.
you're fine, just no
Less-
no subcommittees.
Which is-
So-
Right, that's
Yeah.
what we're talking about right now is just going back, doing research,
Collaborating and research.
collaborating.
Groups of 4 or less.
Right.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
okay.
Somebody write that. Somebody else set up the email.
So
chain,
for the
please.
next meeting, we're all gonna bring.
we won't send an
No,
email.
no.
It's like, all this information is, anything I send you, I send to Joe. So Joe has a record of what's being done. So if you have any questions or anything that you wanted, why don't we let Joe see what he can get some direction from Tony. When's Tony back?
Tomorrow.
And we'll get within the next week or something out, just so you can understand what we can and can't do before we get into, put ourselves in deep. It's not, well, how's the Trails Committee? Because it's advisory too.
We just basically comply with open meeting law.
Yeah,
and
so you post
not-
everything,
Yeah,
right?
and post everything and not,
What do you do in between meetings, though? Email?
we just have subcommittee meetings.
Subcommittee meetings and you post?
Yeah,
Joe
so we don't
Greeley-
do a lot of
Joe
emailing back and
Greeley's-
forth.
He's pretty well on to all that.
We just,
Because you'd have to post the emails? Is
yeah,
that-
so you can only basically email what you want to talk about at a meeting. And you can email about when you want to meet, but you can't email back and forth any content. You basically have to show up to the subcommittee and have a dialogue.
Like
And
if
then you
it's,
take note, you have meeting minutes on the dialogue, and post those, is that,
We don't have to
you
take
don't have to do that as a
minutes,
subcommittee?
no. Well, I won't.
Oh,
Subcommittees
yeah,
should be
yeah,
three or
let me
less.
just say
I'm not really-
for that.
I'm not really sure.
I thought I knew what
I'm trying to think how we
subcommittee
can
rule
get
was,
around
but now I
well,
don't
yeah,
know.
but if you're gonna meet and it's, like, say you're gonna meet at the library on Saturday at 2. What's it, 72-hour notice or
48.
48 hours
not
notice?
counting Saturdays, Sundays. and
Yeah.
holidays.
Yeah, well, so like Wednesday, close the business on
So
Wednesday.
technical.
You'd have to just email Joe, tell him that your subcommittee's gonna meet at a certain time, and he'll post it. And that's all, I mean, so we've done, as far as all that goes, and, you might wanna keep notes, so you can come back and tell us what you talked about, but that's posting. So that's what, so if you know in advance, right now, it might be easier for the first few times, if you meet in person, and just kind of, let me and Joe know that you're meeting, and just post it. And it's just a simple thing, send an email, whoever, you guys can get together and, okay, you're gonna be, somebody's gonna be the person that's gonna do not like all three need to tell Joe, it's just one of you become the subcommittee chair, just for a throw out a title. And basically your responsibility is telling Joe 48 hours in advance, so if it's on a weekend, in the business on Wednesday, that you're gonna meet, and when and where, and what time, and that's it. That's all, and, you know, as far as that goes, you can just say it's the Energy Subcommittee. We're gonna meet at Percival Brewery at 3 o'clock on, Saturday, and that's all you need to do.
At least, and when do we have to send the minutes by?
Well, minutes, we haven't been keeping minutes right now. Joe's been keeping track of what's been said, but basically that's why the agenda, like I send the agenda, just so everything, it gets in one place. Not like everybody's got it and trying to figure out what to do and what not to do here. So that just, notes about, notes about what you talked about, we decided to look at Brookline's energy, and this is what we liked about it, and then we can we start piecing that into the action plan too. So, I mean, that's for instance, we're getting past 8:30 here, I don't want to keep it too long, but, I mean, these are important questions, and I want to cut it short, but that, it's, if you have any doubt, tell. I mean, that's all. I mean, if you have any questions, just, you can't, the thing is not saying anything. If you're not sure, either email Joe or I, and both of us, and, we'll, if there's a problem, if we see something, I think once you notify us, I think that's fine. I mean, that's all we have to do right now. And if we need to get a little more into it, we'll talk about it at a later date, For right now, not sweat too much about it, but if you want to, I'll send out the grid again, and you guys can decide how you want to meet. If you want to get together. Like I said, the first time, you should probably, it'd be easy if you did in person, because then you can kind of exchange emails, and you can work out maybe a schedule, things like that. It's just, you do things like that in person, it takes like 5 minutes, can hit like 25 emails, like everybody's got, oh, I missed that, things like that. But that's my 30 cents worth or whatever. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in
Do
favor?
we need to set the next meeting?
Oh, the only
Or
thing
this
is,
set?
before we, December 16th, does that look okay? I know,
That works for me.
December gets kind of rough, because if
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
fine.
that, it's your kids that
Monday,
got
right?
something,
Yeah.
so.
That's fine. So what are we coming to the meeting with next?
Look at look at a couple of action plans, not they have to go through 27 of them. But, you're gonna click on and you're gonna see something, probably in first impression, if it's something if it's like this, and you're not gonna want it. If it is, something you can get into and understand, that's probably what you're doing. You'll probably spend a lot of time in a couple, and hardly any time in some others, because it doesn't hit you the right way. Happened to me. So the 16th, 7 o'clock here. Any other questions?
Are we leaving tonight with any subcommittee
I'll send a list.
commitments or
You're gonna-
expectations?
I'm gonna send the list out, and if you have time to meet, or you want to meet, and just try to figure out what time is convenient.
Do we feel good about, everyone feels comfortable with where we are, right? With that?
I'm sitting down, I'm very comfortable.
Very comfortable. Awesome.
As far as that goes, so, I'll send those out. We have some committees that are, 4 people are interested in, some are 3, but it's either 3 or 4, as far as that goes. And I'm on to.
Except for
Wanna
solid
take a-
waste.
So, no,
You wanna take a pic with your phone?
No, I have it on my phone, but I have to go through find the file on my emails. I just wanna see what was on solid waste, or the number on
Well,
solid
solid
waste.
waste, everybody, except for Mark and Brian.
Solid waste is a
We're
quorum.
breaking it up, right? Like-
Yeah, I know, see, that's,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's gonna be,
Dealing with recycling.
you might,
Well,
we might not wanna kind of
So I'm not gonna-
go with
Same.
solid waste right a bit.
We're not adjourned
at
yet.
your other ones first, and then
We're
we'll
not
come back to
adjourned, we're not
solid waste.
adjourned yet.
Because it's such a, we gotta figure out how we wanna attack that one, I think, and we all should be in the room doing that
We're
one.
not adjourned yet
Huh?
either. We're not adjourned yet either.
No.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Well, we already get a first and second discussion, I just dropped it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Okay.